Hi! If you saw my recent video trying out the ankle loom for the first time, you'll know I really enjoyed it. I made bookmarks for myself that I also gave away to friends, and they weren't perfect, but it was easy enough and I had a lot of fun doing it. So in this video, I will be weaving and using 3 ankle bands for 3 different projects. I'm going to be making straps for a tote bag, shoelaces, and a belt to be worn around the waist. So settle in for some ankle weaving and crafting. Enjoy. For my first project, using something that I actually wove on the ankle loom, I'm going to be making a tote bag out of this lovely cobalt blue canvas and out of this woven band that I made on the loom. This is my second ever band, and I will insert the pattern that I came up with for it here. My canvas is already cut into a rectangle that's 36 inches by 15 inches, and my band is 1 inch wide and about 62 inches long, which I'm just hoping is long enough for my strap, but I think it will be. So I've never actually made a tote bag before, but I did watch a few YouTube tutorials and it does seem pretty simple. I decided I'm going to go with French seams for the side seams for a clean finish, and to do that I'm going to start by sewing a 1/4 inch seam allowance on the side. Alright, I've turned the bag out so that my clean pressed seams are showing. And this looks like the right side, but since I'm doing French seams, I now sew over these seams again at a 3/8 inch seam and encapsulate the initial seam, and then this becomes the wrong side. Press again. Okay, I'm gonna turn my bag inside out and you'll see how pretty and neat my French seams are. This is nice, thick, sturdy canvas. I really like it. Okay, so that's what the seams look like. And now I'm going to mark for my double fold hem on the top of the bag. I'm also going to mark my strap placement. I hear geese outside. Okay, to mark the placement of my straps, first I'm marking the center of the bag on the wrong side. And then from there, I want my straps to be 5 inches apart. So I'm going to mark that using my center marking. Okay. Now, before I sew the top hem of my tote bag, I have to pin my strap in place. But before I pin my strap in place, I need to cut and finish my strap. So I don't really know too much about finishing techniques for ankle woven bands, but I am learning as I go. I've been sewing and working with yarn for a long time, so it's fine. We'll figure it out. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut off all of this excess fringe. Don't need that. Bye-bye. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. The next thing I'm going to do is fold my strap in half lengthways. Make sure it's exactly lined up correctly. So I get the halfway point, and now I'm going to cut this one strap into two straps. And these raw edges are going to get sewn under the hem of the bag, but just, I don't know, for peace of mind, I think I'll do a little, either a zigzag. Yeah, let's go with a zigzag on the edge of this with my machine. That should be good. Let's do a 3-stitch zigzag. Let me lower the width and the length a little bit. Let's see how that did. You know what? It's not particularly beautiful, but I don't need it to be. I just want it to be really structurally sound, and I feel good about that. So I'm going to do that on all 4 of my strap edges. Make sure I have no twists. Insert my strap. Okay, I'm getting ready to go over my first strap. Let me take the pin out and let's go. Nice. Okay, so I've done the first pass along this bottom edge of the hem of the tote bag, and now I'm going to do another pass on the top edge of the tote bag, flipping the straps up and sewing over them this way. Okay, I'm getting ready to go over the top of the first strap. And I think that went pretty well. Okay, we're almost there. We're just going to reinforce each of these straps with a little X. You've probably noticed that on bags that you have at home. Now I get to do it. All right, I've got my needle down. I'm just gonna point myself to the corner and sew. I think I'm about lined up with the first row of stitching. I'm going to try to go along that row of stitching there to get to the other corner. Okay, and here's what that looks like on the right side, where you don't see the X on the strap. Then on the wrong side, you can see the X on the strap, making it nice and sturdy. Now we just need to repeat that for the other 3 straps. Okay, here is the finished tote bag. Never made a bag before this, and I have to say I quite enjoyed it. It was fun, it was easy. And here it is, all finished with a book and a knitting project in it. And I have to say, it really turned out cute. I like it a lot. Is there any need to take the hours that it took to weave my own strap to make my own tote bag? No, but that's the beauty of it, isn't it? And I feel lucky that I get to spend my time making stuff like this because it's really fun and it's really cool. But yeah, check it out, check it out, check it out. Highly functional, extremely beautiful. Like, hello? All right, so I've finished weaving my newest piece on the ankle loom, and it is ready to come off the loom. This time I decided to weave a narrow band specifically to make shoelaces for this pair of shoes. So let's get started. This piece is ready to come off the loom, so I will go ahead and just cut. And here we go. Here's a better look at the band I've woven out of different shades of blue, green, and black with shiny DMC thread. And I will insert the pattern I used here. All right, I am going to trim this extra fringe I don't need. Okay, so I just checked my band with the length of the original shoelace for the shoe that I want to lace, and I thought I calculated enough to make a band that was longer than what I needed to get 2 shoelaces, but I'm just a little bit short. I still am not good at knowing exactly how to warp the loom to get a very specific like warp length and how that translates when it's woven, and like how much waste I end up not being able to weave because there's always about like, I don't know, 8 to 12 inches of warp that you cannot weave at the start and finish. Anyway, it's gonna be a little shorter, but I think it's long enough to work. I was gonna cut this to match the length of the laces, but since I don't have enough, I'm just gonna cut this perfectly in half. Okay, now I ordered this fray check like seam glue, and I'm just gonna dab a bit of this on every edge to seal in these raw edges before I put the tips, the aglets, on. So let me put this on, and then I think it needs 15 minutes to set up. Okay, my glue has had some time to dry and set, and it feels nice and hardened and kind of like it got coated in plastic or something. And I am ready to lace my shoe. So since I was going to the trouble of making custom woven shoelaces, of course I had to research the tips of shoelaces, which are called aglets. And of course there's a whole world of people who produce and sell and use interesting, custom, non-standard aglets for drawstrings and shoelaces and such. So of course I wanted to get some non-standard, interesting, square, oversized green aglets. I wasn't thinking at all about whether or not these would fit through the grommets or the eyelets for the shoelaces, and of course they don't. So no big deal. That just means I need to lace my band through the shoe and then attach my aglets once the lace is already laced. And that also just means that if I ever need to remove these laces, then I would have to remove the aglets. But I'm not in the habit of frequently removing and replacing and messing with my shoelaces. Maybe I will be now though. So let's get started on the lacing. These hardened glue ends are actually going to be kind of helpful for getting these laces through the holes. Sorry my shoe is dirty. This would have been a good opportunity to clean it up, but oh well. Okay, and I'm not going to go through this last hole. The original laces on these shoes were also not laced all the way up, so I'm just keeping it how they were. And now it is time to attach my aglets. So I didn't look up a tutorial for this. They didn't come with any instructions. The most standard kind of aglets that are like metal, I believe you have to use pliers to like crimp the metal around the lace. These seem pretty self-explanatory because they came with small screws and a small screwdriver. So I'm just compacting, and I'm gonna also twist the tip of this to help get it in. I'm just pinching, twisting, and trying to push this at least most of the way in. And you see there is a little threaded hole for a screw. So now I just get that little screw on top, take my tiny baby screwdriver, and I believe that tightens right up onto the lace because it's pretty secure from that. I mean, just with kind of like with most handmade stuff, I'm always gonna treat this more gently than I would something commercial. So I'm probably never gonna pull very hard on these, but I think I could. I'm doing it right now. But now for the second aglet. Okay, here is my pair of shoes, both laced with my hand-woven laces that I made on my new inkle loom. Specialty custom big oversized metal green aglets are installed, and this was a fun, cute, quick project. It's just cool to be able to do stuff like make your own shoelaces because why not? And here we go. Here's how they look on my feet with some jeans and hand knit socks. All right, for my latest ankle weaving project, I've decided to weave a belt that I can wear around my waist, and the weaving's done and the belt is ready to come off the loom. So let's get to it. Check it out. Isn't that just stunning? This is definitely my favorite belt that I've woven so far. Okay, so I've gone ahead and trimmed off the excess fringe from both ends of my belt. I have my sewing machine out, threaded with black thread, and I'm just gonna do a zigzag stitch on one end of the belt to start with to finish it off. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and trim my sewing threads. And I feel really good about the security of this double zigzag, but this is the end of the belt where I will be attaching hardware. So this end of the belt is gonna come under stress and wear when I'm actually using it. So just for extra security, I'm gonna go in and dab all of these ends with this fray check glue and then give it 10-15 minutes to dry down. Okay, I've given my glue a little bit of time to dry, and now I want to talk you through my next step of the process. So I'm making a double D-ring belt. I don't know if that's official terminology. I've never had a belt that has D-rings, but when I was researching belts, this just seemed like such a simple kind of belt, like simple to make, simple to wear. I didn't really watch any tutorials. I just looked at how those belts work and I was like, oh, I could make that. So I'm making this up as I go, but pretty much all that needs to happen is that these two rings stay together. The belt needs to go through them and be sewn down so that I have something like this. But I would like to get this as clean as possible, right? Like, even though these are glued and sewn down, I don't really want to trim them super short just because I don't want to encourage any unraveling through wear. So I'm not going to trim it, but I don't want, when I'm wearing the belt, for there to be any fringe sticking out like this. And it's not just as simple as like doing a double fold. Like, that could work, but I could still have fringe coming out over time. There's probably a really perfect solution to this that I haven't thought of and didn't research, but here's what I think I'm gonna do. I think I'm just gonna kind of fold in my corners just a little bit. Like, that's enough, honestly. My ring's on. And then, so with the corners folded in a little bit, and then double fold, and try to sew where, I mean, right now my fringe is sticking out. I'll do this more carefully before I sew. But I'll try to sew where I get through all the layers on the side, so everything's secure and nothing's sticking out, and it'll look great from the right side. So let's just go for it. I'm kind of curious to see if I can do a back stitch. I haven't tried doing straight stitching on my ankle weaving. I think it'll work. I think it just didn't want to do the reverse on a zigzag. Yeah, that's working well. There's the back, there's the front. It's just got this tiny little bit of the end sticking out, and I don't really want to seam rip this, to be honest. I mean, this belt is plenty long, so if I really hated it, I could cut this and redo it, no problem. For now, I'm just gonna leave it, and I will do better on my next belt, right? Like, this is my first one, and it's a learning process. Okay, I'm ready for my first try on before I choose the length. And as you can see, this is quite long. But I think all you have to do, and there might be more than one way to do this, there probably is, but I think you just put the belt through both D-rings and then kind of split them open and put it back through the other direction, just through one D-ring, and pull until it's as tight as you want. And you can see I have all of this extra belt here, and it's just a matter of deciding how long I want this to be. I mean, I could always just feed this back around the belt loops, but it goes all the way almost back to the front and the other side. I kind of like the idea of it hanging a couple of inches in the front just because it's so beautiful. I want it to kind of take up space and be shown off, but just a few inches. I don't need it to be down to the floor. Okay, here's the innovation that I came up with, which is to thread the belt's end through 2 more loops and then have just the option of like a short little tail hanging off from the side. I feel like that looks cool. So I'm just gonna cut right here and leave myself enough for a bookmark. And all I have left to do is finish this edge, and I'm done. All right, I'm just gonna go through the same steps for the other end of the belt, starting with sewing 2 rows of a zigzag stitch on my sewing machine. Will it let me reverse? Ooh, it's letting me reverse. Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna skip the fray check for this side just because it's got 3 lines of zigzag stitch and this side isn't attached to any hardware. It's not going to be getting pulled on or put under stress. So I'm not really worried about anything coming loose, but I'm going to try to do an even better job of this sort of little envelope fold to start. Like that. And then 1 more fold over. And that looks pretty good to me. So let's go ahead and sew it down. Okay, and it looks pretty good from the front. Okay, so here is the finished belt, my tiny tail on the side. I'm really pleased with how this came out. It was easy, it was fun, it's functional. These jeans have literally been falling off of me ever since I bought them, and I just could never commit to a belt. It's like, I don't know what belt to buy. So naturally, I just went without until I could make my own. So in conclusion, if you couldn't tell, I'm obsessed with inkle weaving. It's been a really fun new craft to learn, and if it seems like something you'd want to explore and try out, I highly suggest you do, especially if you're like me and you're already into yarn crafts. Like, why not? You're used to working with the materials. It's not that different from knitting, right? Anyway, this was just a fun video to put together just to see like what things I could do with narrow woven bands, and I think I'm going to keep doing it and coming up with more uses for bands. I also want to get into tablet weaving and pickup weaving to do more decorative designs in the future, maybe other styles of belts. But thanks for watching. Subscribe, say something nice in the comments, or don't. Bye.